You know what I've had stuck in my head all day because of the new segment? It was the best of times. It was the blurst of times. Oh, you stupid monkey. Which, of course, you don't get
because
you
it's a
don't watch
Simpsons
the
reference.
Simpsons.
At least I can tell by your delivery now when you sort of do it.
Yeah, because you can see my eyes pleading with you.
Like, please get my reference. Nobody else does anymore.
It's fifth period. The party's fifth period. Get headphones and hear it. Let me hit that vibraco. That vibraco. Let me hit that vibraco.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Fifth Period, the film podcast hosted by two media teachers, where today we are traveling to a world of pure imagination. So cheer up, Charlie, grab your golden ticket, and sign the legally binding document that says I'm not liable if you get turned into a blueberry. My name is Mr. Brown, and with me, as always, is...
Mr. Boylan. Yeah. I've got nothing else. Just excited to be talking about this movie. Someone posted about sort of like doing Willy Wonka, which I think might have been Ignatius.
I think it was Ignatius, so shout out to him for a great suggestion.
A very good suggestion. I thought, oh no, we're doing the 2005 one, aren't we? Surely Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory has been done on the fifth period before Mr. Brown, but
You would think so.
it hasn't.
That's a rookie mistake, mate, because everybody knows the 2005 version is called Charlie and the Chocolate
Exactly
Factory.
right. And we'll get into some naming difficulties about why this one was called Willy Wonka.
It's really interesting because the one that centers more around Charlie is called Willy Wonka, and the one that centers more around Willy Wonka is called Charlie.
Roald Dahl, you crazy bugger.
Crazy, but no, I'm right there with you, mate. I love this film. I studied it with my Year 12s a few years back and had an absolute blast. So the whole idea behind it was back when we were still studying two techs, and I paired it with The Menu because both are about eccentric food makers who bring a group of horrible people to an isolated location and basically tortures them.
It's a good comparison.
Yeah, and there's
a
like
nice
one
little-
redeeming character that's like a little more low class. It works perfectly.
Wow-wee.
Shout out to previous film appreciators and Year 12 students, Riley and Jave. I had a few others from that class, but those were the weekly returners.
Big dogs.
The big dogs, that's what they call them. Woof, woof to
Woof,
them.
woof.
Bow wow, old friends, bow wow. Alrighty.
Okay.
In addition to our main discussion of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory today, we will also be discussing our weekly watches and trialing a new segment called Best and Blurst.
New segments.
That's it. So if you want to skip ahead to any of that, I will leave time codes in the description below.
Hey, it's Chloe,
And Charlie.
and today we'll be talking about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Thank you very much to Chloe and Charlie for their intro to the pod this week. I am very, very thrilled that they've been coming along the last few weeks to Film Club. They're both in my drama class this year and very tentatively asked, are we allowed to come along? And I was like, of course you are. I thought it might have been a one-off for them, but there they were back again. So we had to get them on so that they could do an intro and give them a good shout out because they were pretty excited when I asked them if they wanted to do it.
They seemed very, very keen for it. I taught Chloe last year for media, did a really good job in there, putting together some really fantastic work across the video tasks. So good to see her re-engaging with media in a different context and coming along to Film Club. And
That's it.
they were very, very keen to do the intro.
Super energetic and a joy to have in the classroom. So hopefully we're going to see him in future weeks at Film Club.
Absolutely.
Alrighty, let us jump in to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, based on the Roald Dahl classic. Now, in terms of context, this is a really interesting film. Like
Yep.
the whole idea of making a film to market a product, Quaker's Oats.
I mean, just like how it got made, it was some interesting sort of things that, sort of popped out. I mean, outside of the fact that it's directed by Mel Stewart, who's the first cousin of Stan Lee, which is kind of cool.
That is a fun detail.
But Roald Dahl came in to do the screenplay, but it didn't really work out. They had some creative differences. So they basically had David Seltzer, who was brought in, but he was basically uncredited so they could keep that sweet, sweet Roald Dahl name attached. And then the film really changed to have a bit more of a focus, I think, on Wonka rather than sort of Charlie.
They thought it would be more marketable if they went with Willy Wonka because then it's connecting to the bars and stuff like that, as opposed to Charlie, which is just a bit bland. It's not as fun.
Bland. We'll talk about Bland and Charlie in a little bit. But Slugworth got brought in as a more villainous character. Obviously, certain scenes added and cut. But yeah, the title change was interesting because it was A few different reasons, the ones that you talked about as well, Mr. Brown, but also as well the fact that Charlie was slang in the 60s in the US, specifically in the African American community, and it actually referred to a white man in power. So they're like, okay, we might sort of step away from that. And obviously, considering the film came out in 71, but there's obvious references to, calling the Viet Cong Charlie in the Vietnam War. So there was a fair few reasons why they went with the name change.
Just while you're talking on like the racial connotations and stuff like that as well, the original name of the book that Roald Dahl wanted to go with was Charlie and His Chocolate Boys. And for obvious reasons, they elected to go in a different direction.
Probably a wise decision.
Not that there aren't still some overhanging connotations
About
for the
Roald Dahl?
Oompa Loompas, and obviously there was a big visual change to how they looked in this as to how they were described in the book, so that it kind of softened that blow a little bit. But there's still some very heavy references to like sweatshops and slavery and that sort of thing as well. So controversial subject matter.
Yeah, for a film about chocolate.
Speaking of chocolate, those credits, they're not very appetizing.
Oh, actually, I don't like
You
the
liked
whole, I
it?
like the whole process.
I don't
And we
think
get like a little medley of the songs and everything like that.
The medley I loved. That was great. Like it's almost like an overture at the start of a musical.
Yeah, it's perfect. I think that's something I always probably forget as much about the original film, because there's more musical set pieces in the 2005 version, and like with the really distinct different songs that the Oompa Loompas have, and even like the rest of the characters get ready for them to perform and everything like that, which I do enjoy, like with that Chewa and all day long, whatever it is. That was really good. But yeah, I really like the music in this. There's some good songs in here. There's some not so good songs in here.
Yeah, but I will say, like, because this is a film that obviously we grew up with, the nostalgia just came flooding in as soon as I started hearing any of those tracks.
1,000,000%.
1 million? Oh my goodness. You were as good as doing percentages as Willy Wonka himself.
As a Mr. Turpentine.
Mr. Turpentine, that's it.
Rob Brydon.
We'll get there.
So I'm jumping ahead.
So
It's the sugar.
We kick things off with some shots of the town. How good does the town look? So the book is set in Britain. The movie, they never specifically state it, but you assume it's probably set in America because most of the main cast has American accents, and the ones that don't, it's justified that they've flown in to go to the factory.
Yes, except the teacher.
Well, yeah. Rob
Brydon.
But it was actually shot in Germany. So there's a couple of reasons they did that. Obviously, it was a little bit cheaper to shoot in Munich than it would have been to shoot in the US. But Mel Stewart also wanted to kind of showcase the town, a beautiful looking town.
Yeah.
But also, because this is a fantastical world, he didn't want it to seem like the landscape was something overly recognizable. So he picked like this kind of a town because it was a little quirky, it was a little different. It makes you buy into the majesty of the world.
Yep.
Even before we get to the extravagant factory.
Yes, planting the sort of, the seeds there. And speaking of extravagant, Bill's bloody candy shop.
Bloody Bill's candy shop.
Oh my goodness.
Selling a couple of scrumdiddlyumptious bars.
We get our first little track here.
Candyman.
It's a good song.
You get Tony Todd coming through, obviously, as well with his hook, and just kills all of the children.
They said it at least 5 times in the song. We've already alluded to the fact that Charlie's teacher looks like Rob Brydon, but I said to you that Bill looks like Lee Winnell, famous Australian writer, director.
Aubrey Wood's here. He's terrific.
He is. He's really good.
Like, he's only got like 2 scenes, but he's just magnetic with his the singing voice is really good, and how he sort of acts with the kids and everything like that.
I like the look as well, like the candy stripes makes it look like the peppermint kind of lollies.
Yeah, he immediately creates an atmosphere. You understand why kids would rush there after school, not just to go buy stuff, because they're welcome there, and this is a nice guy who's running it, and it sort of sets up the good vibes.
I did say to you on Friday that I think all the adults, in fact, all the people outside of Charlie in this movie are just terrible people. And Bill, while he has this sort of like awe about the way that he sings the songs and gives out the candy, I was like, what a jerk. Charlie's just standing outside like, please, sir, may I have some more?
He's like...
Exactly, like he's giving away all this free candy, and then later when Charlie finally does come in...
But I feel like he does that because Charlie goes to get his attention off the ladder by going...
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
There you go.
So I always thought it was just like, oh, he's a bit savage, but I think that's why. Because he's
Well,
like, Charlie's rude.
Be the bigger man, Bill. You're the adult in the situation.
Nah,
Give him some free candy.
Don't be the bigger man.
He's giving out all the free candy in this scene, and
candy
Charlie's
man.
just like,
None. And none for Charlie Bucket.
Peter Ostrom?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was actually the only role that
Crazy.
he played. He became a vet.
Yeah, it went out on top. He's like, you know what? I play one of the most iconic like kids in children's literature, and then I'm dipping. I'm out. I'm taking my lifetime supply of chocolate and getting the hell out of Dodge.
Getting out. I really like that he's got like the paper route. He's obviously doing a lot for his family. His mum is an absolute saint. She's doing everything for the oldies, Grandpa Joe, and the others. I can't remember. There's a Georgina.
Georgina, and Josephine. They're all just basically
Oh,
versions
there
of
you
the
go.
same name.
I don't think anyone lost any sleep naming those characters.
No, it's a poor excuse then to forget them, Mr. Brown. They're pretty easy.
Yeah, I know. They're not as prominent in this one. In the remake, is it Georgina that keeps doing the dragonflies? She's got like full-blown dementia and doesn't know what anyone's
full
talking
personality. Full personality.
That's it.
But yeah, during the paper rounds, because it's all sort of optimistic and Charlie's
Pretty
having a great
reckless with
time.
that paper. He's just throwing it every which way.
Just yeet. That's fine. But then we get a nice little score change going past the closed Wonka's factory. I really, again, the score is quite good here. As much as some of the songs that characters perform, I'm not 100% on board with. In terms of like the general score of the film, really enjoy. And then how's old random
Nobody
mate
goes in, nobody ever comes out.
for fear of little men? And then
Lady, you're scaring us. We were just saying the other day, this has already come up at least twice, maybe more times in the pod. And just saying this the other day while we were watching it, and you and I just burst out laughing. It's going to be a reoccurring gag. So he heads off home.
Yep.
And Grandpa Joe says something along the lines of, "Oh, once I get my strength back, I'll be up helping him." Well, isn't that convenient? He doesn't have his strength, but as soon as he gets an invite to the chocolate factory, who can walk all of a sudden? Grandpa
George. Grandpa George, who takes center stage in an uncredited role. But yeah, Grandpa
what a
Joe's...
jerk. He's constantly saying like, "Oh, I'll be helping him
Stop
out."
gaslighting your grandson.
That's it. He gets his hopes up way too many times in this opening.
He does. I do really like Jack Albertson in this role. He's quite good. Obviously from Poseidon Adventure. And he's in Fox and the Hound as well.
Poseidon Adventure. That might come back a little later as well.
Oh dear.
It basically gets hammered over our heads that Charlie's a good kid.
Yes.
It was payday and he used it to buy some bread for the family.
The fact that the grandparents are all in the same bed, they're living off cabbage water, and obviously times are pretty tough. And we start to get like a little bit more sort of understanding, I guess, of these characters. You talked about sort of the purity of Charlie, but also sort of after the others have gone to bed, Charlie's talking to Grandpa Joe
About the factory and
about the spy.
there was some competing candy makers that were sending in spies. So keen-eyed viewers, eagle-eyed viewers might have seen a couple of Slugworth products in Bill's candy store.
Fickle Gruber as well.
Oh, there you go.
So all of these guys are like big characters in the Timothy Chalamet film.
Oh, of course. I haven't seen it.
That's
And
okay.
have no intention of seeing it.
It's all right.
I've heard mixed things.
I think it's very much got considering we enjoy Paddington, it's very much got the same kind of charm and feel and aesthetic about it. They talk about the fact that like the Wonka's factory got infiltrated and they closed, but then 3 years later, it's magically back up and running.
Yeah, smoke starts coming from the smokestacks.
Yeah, it's like Shaggy and Scooby's van. No, but no idea who's actually helping Big Wonks. So they're not really sure who the helpers are. And
Little
that's the big
Wonks.
mystery. All little Wonks. Several little Wonks.
And then we got to school and we meet
sounds-
Turpentine.
Turpentine?
Turpentine. It's not turpentine.
Isn't it?
It is not turpentine.
It should be.
It's definitely a K. Turpentine. As we've already said, he looks
It's like
exactly
Rob-
like Rob Brydon.
And sounds like Rob Brydon.
Oh, he really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, like his whole mannerism is Brydon.
If you knew and I didn't know, then you'd be teaching me instead of me teaching you. And for a student to teach his teacher, it's presumptuous and rude.
He's so good. Like, he won't admit fault throughout this scene. He's trying to make like a cure for warts. And Charlie
Normal
puts
thing for
in
class.
exactly what he tells him to. And then he's like, "Did you do it wrong?" No, certainly not. This is just for very big warts. You can tell that he's not a very dedicated teacher because when a kid comes running past and announces that Willy Wonka is opening his factory, he's like, class dismissed, just leave in the middle of the day.
But it's actually a competition. It's only
Class undismissed.
It's like, how do you win the prize? It's like all the tickets are hidden in all Wonka bars around the
Class redismissed.
What a terrible teacher.
So we get a bit of a Wonka mania montage. Genius marketing ploy.
Yeah. Oh,
One part that I really like in here, when Grandpa Joe is building up Charlie's hopes, Charlie's like, do you think I could get one? And he goes, one? You've got a chance to find all 5. One's enough for me. And it's a really good nod to the fact that this whole film is about not being too selfish
and greedy,
and a lot of the ideas that then come back with both the kids and the adults in this film. So it's really cool that we get to see like Charlie's sense of purity in a lot of these earlier scenes.
100%. It's really, really good. And then we see, as you said, like, well, one of the things actually I probably forgot about was how much the hunt for the tickets takes up a large chunk of the film.
It's great though. We get the psychiatrist, and the guy's got like that far and away look.
And the psychologist really isn't engaged with it at all. Angel Gabriel whispered in my ear about the location for the Wonka party. He's like, okay, I'm in now.
I'm in now.
I'm
yeah.
in.
What exactly did he say? This was
What
a
is the tickets?
dream, a fantasy. Tell me where it is.
Oh, so good. And then we get Stanley Cale's Evening Report with Augustus Gloop here in Germany.
You love that guy's voice.
It's so good. It's just like such classic, like old school journalism. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
We began with 5 golden tickets, like 5 lucky bolts of lightning ready to strike without notice at any point on the map.
When we do cut to Augustus, there's another reporter, and the positioning of the camera so that it looks like he has antlers.
Class.
Just so funny. We get some pretty heavy stereotypes of Germans here. They're all wearing their lederhosen.
They're drinking out of mugs.
beers
They're having
and-
sausage and potato. In Bavaria, it is like that. Can confirm.
And do all the people there eat microphones as well? What's with his dad just taking a bite out of the microphone?
I mean, they tried to serve me a microphone when I went to Munich, and I said, "No, it's
Like,
okay.
not for me."
I'm a bit full.
Yeah.
It's fine." Which is not a character trait that any of the Gloops possess. Augustus is obviously pretty excited, but he gets even more excited because someone's helping him eat the food. Who could it be? It's Slugworth.
Bloody Slugworth.
Gunther Meisner.
Whispering in his ear.
Sweet nothings.
He's got a
Sweet
really...
somethings,
Wow,
actually.
yeah. He's got a really sinister appearance. I love the scar on his face.
the glasses as well.
Oh, yeah, like octagonal glasses.
He kind of almost looks like old Toady from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
He really does.
He's got like a Gestapo vibe about him.
blast from the past. Tony.
Arnold Toady.
Back to the family.
It's party time.
Oh, for Charlie's birthday.
B-Day.
Yeah. And once again, Grandpa Joe's getting Charlie's hopes up, but he gets him back. He's like, I got it. No, you believed me, didn't you?
Psych.
It's real sad. It's really
real.
sad. It's
It's like playing this joke.
good one, Charlie. You seem to have upset yourself.
Self-burn. Those are rare. He gets a red scarf though. It's pretty
He
cool.
does.
And it's a pretty nice scarf.
It is a nice scarf.
The
I
little
like
tassels.
It tassels.
Yeah, that's what Grandma
Grandma Georgina.
Or was it Georgina or
Oh, Josephine, who
I
knows?
don't know.
We don't know for sure. We're mixing two of our jokes together there.
Oh, beery.
But we cut across to Veruca Salt, and
my
I like...
goodness.
So, obviously, Gloop is a little bit of a reference to him falling into the river. Gloop. But Veruca, salty as all hell, yelling at her dad about it. I really like her dad as that really
Roy
weak
Kinnear is
character.
great.
He's fantastic.
Veruca, sweetheart, I'm not a magician. Give me time.
I want it now. Make them work nights.
It's pretty nuts, but yeah, you might as well call her.
Pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Because it's a nut factory.
But yeah, I reckon might as well call her Veruca XCX because she's the definition of a brat.
Nice. She is. They
Very
even-
current reference, and people will be like, "Oh, sir, great Charlie XCX reference."
Oh my god, they're gonna love it. I know
Yeah.
I did.
Yep. Oh, yep.
But we said, as soon as they do find the ticket, there's old Slugworth straight
Just
off the plane
teleporting.
from Dusseldorf.
Just teleported.
I don't understand how he's always there afterwards.
Wonka powers.
Well, the first one I could understand, maybe they announced that Augustus got the ticket, so he flies over and he gets the chance to kind of meet him.
Az is there.
But this one, it's like, we found it, he's in the factory.
He's been working. He's just disguised himself.
He's everywhere.
He's old, sluggy everywhere.
Maybe there's like 10 of them.
Maybe.
Like the Oompa
Oompa
Loompas.
Loompas,
They
there's all
got him from
fun.
Slugworth Land.
But yeah, no, Roy Kinnear, I really enjoy this. It's like, Veruca, sweetheart, angel. And then Mum's just like, man, you're enabling this. I'm just going to be chilling here doing my knitting.
I'm a knitting.
My knitting.
I'll
But
be
yeah.
knitting while my daughter's knit-witting.
Yes, she's been nitwitting. We keep sort of getting these like little moments of like other people like trying different ways to get
Oh.
it. And Tim Brooke Taylor is the
This
computer
the
operator.
robot? Oh my god,
Oh.
so good.
I love this
But
scene.
now I think I can safely say your time and money has been well spent. This machine will tell us the precise location of the last 3 golden tickets.
Golden tickets.
And he's so excited.
What would a computer do with a lifetime supply of chocolate?
I'm now telling the computer exactly what he can do with a lifetime supply of chocolate. And he's so angry just pressing it.
That's great.
It's brilliant. We talked about it's a good example of AI turning on you.
100%, 50 years ahead of time. And then we get a golden ticket holder number 3.
VB,
And
Violet
it's
Beauregard.
in Square Deal Sam Beauregard here.
She's a record-holding gum chewer.
She is.
And I love that she is often competing with a girl named Cornelia. And so you get her being like, "Hi, Cornelia,
How are you,
sweetie?"
sweetie?
Rubbing it right in her face.
Yeah, so we start to work out a lot of these characters. These kids suck.
They do suck.
They really do. But I'll tell you what sucks. This next scene, because we get Charlie chatting with his mum. When will things change? Cheer up,
Oh
Charlie.
my god. This whole scene is such a downer. Just in case you're wondering if it'll be me, it won't be. It's like, all right, mate. This is cheers.
Settle down, buckets. It's fine.
Yeah. Your poor mum, literally carrying buckets of laundry.
Good.
Yeah, I told you I used to always go skip to this song. Well, not skip, but fast forward on the old VHS.
I was going to say, you put this on the back and you're skipping around
Skipping
the room
around.
watching it because you love seeing Charlie's misfortune. You
Look,
ungrateful
I
bastard.
have more appreciation for these sadder scenes now. And like, it's a sweet enough song, and it's good to kind of have the
Enough.
heartbreak before the excitement.
True.
Yeah,
Bring
it's
him
just
down and bring him back up again.
Building that anticipation.
We do. And then we get on Mike TV. And
Highest, most annoying voice ever.
it's so bad. I'm watching this.
You sound like the
Roz from...
Wazowski.
Yeah, that's what she sounded like as a kid. I'm watching this.
Always watching.
The best part is shooting like the TV and he's like, wait till I get a real one. Colt 45. Pop won't let me get a real one, will you, Pop?
Not until you're 12, son.
And he's really want to say, frankly, Mike, you're scaring me. It's like, why is my 8-year-old son so keen to have a gun?
Another thing that I really appreciate in this scene, Slugworth twirling the microphone back and
So
forth.
good. Great interviewing technique.
Oh my god, I love it.
He-
And at
he
one point, he
blends in.
does it to the gun when he's shooting. Just
What's the gun
brilliant.
got to say?
It cuts back and
We got Stanley Cale again.
we do. And he's talking about how they should be focusing on other things. He said,
We
there are
must
many
remember
more
there are many
important
important
things. Offhand, I can't think of what they are, but there must be many
something.
more.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, good.
But
Good.
you know what Grandpa Joe hasn't done in a while? Gotten Charlie's hopes up. So here he goes.
With a gross under the pillow Wonka bar. I mean, you've seen those sheets.
Yeah, that's
This is-
disgusting. That would
Charlie's
just be
like-
soup. That'd be chocolate soup by now.
God.
Yuckers.
Yuckers. Nup.
I think I would have opened it by myself first.
Yeah.
Also, he can't get out of bed. How's he getting a chocolate bar?
He's magic.
So many
Grandma
potholes.
Joe's magic.
Couple more fun things. We get the auction, scrambling for the last case of Wonka bars. But also, the Queen is there
And he's
apparently.
like,
Your
1,000 pounds,
Majesty.
2,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds. Your Majesty. And then we get Mrs. Curtis with the husband ransom. Oh my God, this is good.
I'll give them anything they want. They want
Anything.
your case of Wonka bars.
And she's like,
How long will they give me to think it over?
It's your husband, your glass case of Wonka bars.
Wonka bars.
Wonka bars.
Couple of Wonka bars, see?
Wonka bars, you see. But the last ticket, unfortunately, has been found.
Or so they say.
By Alberto Minoretta.
And Charlie has a bit of a cry here.
It's pretty, yeah, like,
A bit sad.
good crying. Good stuff. Good stuff, Peter
stuff.
Ostrom.
You can retire after this performance because it's so good.
Cooking. He overhears it and is crushed.
He's
but-
not the only one though. Oh, Turpentine, as you call him. He's pretty crushed too. The whole spiel he does, he goes off on a rant about how he's changing the schedule around so that they're going to do the test before he's even taught the content.
I've just decided to switch our Friday schedule to Monday, which means that the test we take each Friday on what we learned during the week will now take place on Monday before we've learned it.
It's so good. And then you're going through all the percentages and you understand
Asking
that, like,
the kids how many bars they've bought.
yep, and they're like 200, 150.
And Charlie
like,
says 2.
Just 2. So
He's like, all right,
percentage of
200. Not 200, just 2. What do you mean you only open 2?
Well, I can't just figure out 2.
He's so good.
He's a
So
terrible
let's
team.
say you open 200.
Yeah, for argument's sake, because I'm bad at maths. Be like me teaching percentages.
But he's so good, that outrage tone. 2? He sounds like a Monty Python character. Well, I can't work out just 2. He's not the Messiah. He's just a very naughty boy.
Yeah. There's a little bit of a silver lining, or quite more specifically, a silver coin in the grate.
That's it.
And let's just take a pause here. This is where we finished up things in Film Club on last Friday.
Please.
In Film Club, we're a little bit limited by the lunch times and what we can watch. But
Roughly first 15 to 20 minutes.
give or take, and
Yeah.
but we want to try to end somewhere, like particularly if we get into a part, it's like, oh, we want to watch this scene, and we're getting really close to the bell, and we're very worried about the timing. We're like, let's just push the boundaries.
We'll push it. We'll get as close to him unveiling that he's got a golden ticket as we possibly can.
Yes.
So he goes into Bill's. We get the coffin for the money. Buys himself a scrumdiddly-umptious bar.
And wolfs it down
Woofs.
and
Well,
chokes
it's
and dies.
scrumdiddly-umptious. Can you blame it?
No, it's in the name.
That's it. It's in the name. But he also buys a regular Wonka bar for Grandpa Joe.
There's a bit of a hullabaloo, a commotion.
A bit of a brouhaha.
Mr. Alberto, he was a fraud.
That's it. And we've got about 1 minute till the bell goes at this point. And we're like, quick, Charlie.
Hurry up.
Open up that candy bar.
The suspense is killing us.
Well, and it was. It really was. Well, it wasn't really. Metaphorically, it was.
But
And
it's like a nice, like, I think that what they do here in terms of how they build up this scene, I think is pretty good. Just maybe there's a chance.
of course, yeah, the build-up is great. They didn't design the film to be watched in 20-minute intervals and hopefully getting to that part. So they
Bastards.
could stretch it out a little bit. But what was really funny in Film Club was that the other kids were picking up on the fact that we were waiting for this to happen. And so by the end of it, we had the whole class going, oh, and he reveals the ticket. Yeah!
The class went nuts.
He's done it!
That was very much similar to when we got dinosaurs in the Lost World last year.
Oh, yeah.
When everyone went nuts. That was the best.
Big cheers for dinos, big cheers for golden tickets.
Big buckets. He just gets buckets.
His boss is like, run for it, Charlie. Run straight home and don't stop till you get there. Because everyone's like mobbing him. One person even says something about murdering him.
Yep. It's the Chocky fever is ridiculous. The golden ticket fever.
Why is Chocky fever so high in this? They never really explain why everybody in the world is this obsessed with going to a chocolate
What
factory.
the hell's Wonka putting in that chocolate?
Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness. But yeah, he cuts down the sideway and is stopped by a jump scare. And it's good old Sluggles. Sluggles. He's teleported again. He's incredible. In all the other scenes, it shows that he's been whispering in all of these other golden ticket winners' ears. We don't know what they're saying, but the kids are listening intently.
They are, and none of the adults seem to care that this creep is in their kids' ears.
Yeah, they're absolutely oblivious. I mean, we've kind of worked out that they're not great parents, but
That's true.
so this is just more evidence for that. But basically, convince Charlie to go get him an everlasting gobstopper,
Yep.
so he can make one for his own confectionery company and ruin Wonka.
Obviously, this is a tantalizing deal for Charlie because he even says to him, you'll be able to buy your family a new house.
Yeah, and he's like 150 of these, and it's like it could be any piece of paper right there. You've got, I'm going to give you 150 pieces of paper.
Still, 150 pieces of paper, that's more pieces of paper than Charlie's family's ever seen.
Probably, and you could probably sell that. Actually, they can get 2 loaves of bread.
Oh dear, but we're about to see one of the most frustrating moments in the film when Charlie shuns his mum and says he wishes that Grandpa Joe could go with him. His mum's probably thinking, I've lucked out here, you get to take one guest, I'm the only one that can walk.
Let me go get my coat.
Nope. Makes me so mad. His poor mum who's doing everything for it, and she's just standing there like, oh, all right.
We won't see you for the rest of the movie now.
Yeah. Grandpa Joe's all of a sudden able to get up. His legs were. Bit of Scarecrow vibes in this section here because he's like
Good
trying to
physical
find
comedy,
his feet, and then all of a sudden he can do a little dance number.
Yep, he's been in the bed for 20 years, but I've got a golden ticket. And yeah, it's good fun. I really like this song. It's great.
It is good fun.
Even if Charlie cannot sing, oh my God.
Oh, wow.
When they start harmonizing, I'm like, my ears are bleeding a bit.
That's generous of you to call it harmonizing.
I know. That's my positive comment because Charlie deserves some positivity for once in his life.
And with a golden ticket, it's a golden day.
Stop!
The
God
dance
damn.
is fun at least.
The dance is good.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no time to dance. The big day's tomorrow.
It's tomorrow, 10 o'clock on the dot, and the kids are all ready to go in.
Yeah, outside in their Sunday best.
They are, and they're ready to go. And as the clock strikes, we start to sort of get, more sort of details about the characters.
Did you hear Mike TV's friends' names? He's like, hi, Billy. Hi, Fish Face.
Oh, yeah.
Fish Face?
Classic. Release the fish face cut. That's
I
good
want to
for-
meet Fish Face. It's pretty wild that it takes like half the movie before Gene Wilder's
45
introduced.
minutes.
That's certainly not how you remember it because
No.
from this point onwards, he is cooking.
He is cooking.
Oh, you're cooking, Wilder, they say.
Cooking Frankie. Yeah, so obviously we're talking about sort of pre-prod stuff for this. It was a pretty wanted role by a lot of people.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Good stuff. Some of your best work, Mr. Brown. Fred Astaire at one stage wanted it, and they were like, oh, cool, but you're 74.
Just for this somersault section.
Oh, and then, yeah, basically Gene Wilder crushed the audition. He had the demonic and sardonic edge that they wanted, and boy, does he about both of those things.
It's my favourite part of the character, how cold he is and menacing at times.
And we'll talk about sort of the comparison to this and the other one, that this is why I enjoy this film probably the most. He'd done the producers prior to this, and then obviously went to do Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein 3 years later.
Yep.
So really this film was like bang for him.
Oh, and I've already given quite a bit of Wilder appreciation. You have.
You went
when we
wild.
did. I did. I went wild for Wilder. I couldn't have gone wilder. I'll take it out, of course, but I just wanted you.
It's a bloody Harvard audition tape. Gene Wilder.
Oh my goodness.
Just shaking his wonkers.
Oh, but when he comes out, I really like how disappointed everybody looks just because he's got a cane.
And he takes a really long time.
Yeah, but Charlie's like, oh no.
Oh, he sucks.
He sucks. He's just a crippled old man.
But apparently, so Gene Wilder said, I'm doing the role if I can do this.
Oh, he asked for this.
He said, if I can't do this at the start of my introduction, I'm not doing the movie.
Jeez, what a hard stance to take on such a weird thing.
I got one condition. I need to do a slow walk up the red carpet with the cane, somersault, and stand up.
It's cool. I like it for his reveal.
I love it. It's really, really cool.
I feel like it's such a simple effect too. So I was like, oh, how did they do it again with getting the stick to stay? Just one bit of stone is missing, and it's just like a soft kind of sand or something that he just sticks it into.
Yeah.
Really clever. There's a lot of kind of practical effects in this. There's some compositing that's a little more janky, but for the most part, the effects are pretty decent.
It holds up pretty okay, for sure.
I also love how friendly he is when we first meet him. Like, Augustus, my dear boy, how good to see you. And in such good shape.
Just the sarcasm is just absolutely dripping through every character introduction. I love it. I love it so much. Are we ready? Yes. Good. In we go.
Yeah, well, so much time and so little to see. Wait a minute. Strike that. Reverse it. He makes him sign the contract saying he isn't liable for any accident.
If you have any problems, dial information. Thank you for calling.
Give me that pen. You're always making things difficult.
Nicely handled, Veruca. And Mike TV goes, I saw this in a movie once. Guy signed his wife's insurance policy, then he bumped her off. Clever.
Yeah. Just some of this stuff that's really subtle that I
So many quick
100%
lines.
wouldn't have picked up as a kid. That really sort of made this such a brilliant rewatch.
Well, because most of them are under his breath, so they're not even the main focus.
And they're
but
so quick.
yeah, like I would imagine some of these are probably just him riffing.
Just riffing.
Just riffing.
Just gone wilder. That's
But
fine.
early on, things start to be quite unsettling. You got the hooks that grab the coats. They go into the room that doesn't have another door, and he just comes in. I know it's in here someplace.
Is it my soul that calls upon my name? It's just so much fun. Keyboard
What is this,
out.
Wonka? Some kind of fun house? Why, are you having fun?
This is like, I genuinely think like one of the most formative like scenes of a movie as a kid for me. Just the chocolate room. Like, even the way he pronounces it in his delivery there, it's really good. And where the score drops out and just that really iconic start for Pure Imagination is... it's just incredible. And the really good thing is there's a lot of genuine reactions, like first-time reactions to seeing things that they capture. And it's really good work from the child actors who do that because, A, it's good work from Mel Stewart to get a lot of these, but also as well, they really provide some great facial expressions. And it's like genuine reactions to what they see because the room is
Set's
brilliant.
incredible. Yeah, it really is. It's super colorful. It's magical. It really steers into that kind of musical element.
Yep.
Because obviously prior to this, a lot of the sets have been quite like dull.
Yep.
Like they wash out a lot of the colors so that when you get here, it really hits hard. And I think it's particularly good that in the opening couple of rooms, even though they're quirky and they're out there, they're still like stark white, so that it really does have a huge impact when you go in there. Like everything looks incredible. Maybe not the Chocolate River. It's got like a reddy tinge to it. It's
Like reddy brown sort of color. But that's okay.
I did a bit of research into it to try and find out. Like some sources say that it had real elements of chocolate in it. Others say it was like dyed water, but then they put some cocoa powder in it. But the one thing that was consistent was it started to smell.
And fair. It probably would have.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty bad.
But this song, Pure
yeah.
Imagination.
Hold your breath, make a wish, count to 3.
Him walking down the stairs and going back up and stopping him with the cane.
All in time as well.
And like the mushroom that he joins onto his walkie stick to, like an umbrella.
The whole scene is just, it's brilliant. I still remember vividly watching this as a kid and just being entranced by what I was watching on screen. Just like little things that Gene Wilder does, like when he gets to the bottom of the stairs and he's like little bow to invite them in and just rushing through and just the clear euphoria that everyone has, but not just the kids, but the parents as well.
And the pride that Gene Wilder has looking over it. It's like going out into your garden with a coffee and being like, oh, I've done really well here.
I've cooked.
Well, he has. He's cooked some chocolate. I love how they contrast the beauty with how disgusting the kids are eating. Grandpa Joe and Charlie are like just with a candy cane, but everyone else is like scooping stuff up.
The big one's like Veruca
feral.
when she's bashed the ball to high heaven and then gets like fudge or whatever's in there. Man, looks great, but she's just like animalistic behavior contrasting with what's a very sort of idyllic sort of song.
Absolutely,
It's just good. It's just some really good choices here.
But we also meet the Oompa Loompas from Loompa Land. I'm a teacher of geography. Oh, then you know all about it. Like, won't even let her question it.
No. So you know how much of a desolate and dangerous place
Well, it is. They were escaping from wangdoodles and snozwangers and vermicious canids.
Vermicious canids.
So he's such a good guy. It's not slave labor.
No,
he
he's
rescued
saving them.
No sweatshops here. No siree.
But while this is all happening and everyone's entranced by our green-haired, orange-faced little helpers, Augustus has taken this opportunity. He's like, I'm a bit thirsty. I'm going to go get some river chocolate.
And Wonka's pretty annoyed that he's touching it, first of all, and boy does he get annoyed when he falls in.
Yeah.
He's like, he throws his arms up. He's like, no, you've ruined my chocolate.
I always say, like, one of the most quotable lines in this is like, Augustus, say something for later.
It really is the inspiration for The Simpsons, your favorite television show. Don't make me run, I am full of chocolate.
What's the character's name?
Uta.
Uta, that's right.
After he's made peace with him falling in, help,
police, murder. But yeah, obviously Augustus is in the river and then the suction is pulling him into the pipe.
The suspense is terrible. I hope it lasts. I love that he's like eating at the same time. It's like that classic eating from a popcorn bucket while people are like going head to head.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you can put in the little clip of Bill Hader playing the guy from, I think it's
I know
Crime Investigations.
exactly what you're talking about.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
Well, it's not a video pod, so I can put the soundbite in for you.
Please.
Oh, that's terrible.
You seem kind of psyched.
No, I'm bummed.
The pressure builds and he shoots out in the pipe. It looks pretty funny.
It does look funny. They've obviously just sped it up. Grandpa Joe goes, "You know, Charlie, when you're asking me about how a bullet gets shot out of a gun, why was he asking that? That's dark."
Because you've been collaborating with Mike TV and they're going to kill everyone.
Yikes.
This is what happens.
So he plays his little fiddle, gets an Oompa Loompa to take Mrs. Gloop to the fudge room so that they can hopefully save him before it's too late.
Yep, and then it's been at least a few minutes, so it's time for another song.
Oh my goodness.
And it's the first of the Oompa Loompa songs.
The coloured lyrics and the framing.
I forgot about that.
It's wild. It's real trippy.
As much as I'll actually be in contrast of what the Oompa Loompa says when he says, "I don't like the look of it."
You do like the look of it. Now, this reference is going to be a bit of a stretch for you, mate, because we've already established you don't watch The Simpsons.
Righto, Jay Baruchel.
There is a Futurama episode where they go to the Slurm factory, and it's obviously referencing this film, but one of the best things about
Slurm's the
is...
drink that they drink in
It
Futurama.
is, yes. Nailed it. He's done it. But one of the things that I love about that episode is when they sing the songs, they really make fun of the fact that they say made-up words in it just to rhyme. So when they're asking about the secret ingredient to the Slurm, they go, "Chunga lunga dunga degredient. Please do not ask about the secret ingredient." And just listening to these songs and knowing that, yeah, they can just say random words and then it's always going to rhyme. It'd make our jingle so much easier.
It really would. That's what we do for the next one.
Yeah, well, knowing I haven't quite written the jingle for Best and Blurst.
There might be some made-up words in there.
So the riverboat.
Let's cook.
Oh my goodness. You sure this thing will float? With your buoyancy, sir, rest assured.
This is something I talked about on the pod a fair bit. I think about some of the movies that I watched as a kid and how much they have shaped my interest in horror as an older person.
Yep.
And a lot of it is because kids' movies back in the day were scarier. Okay?
Hell yeah,
they had
they were.
so many more elements that were darker. They were okay showing that to kids.
Mm-hmm.
They were okay with kids getting scared, which is something I wish we were okay with again, particularly considering what some of my Year 7 students tell me what they are watching.
Yeah, right.
I'd rather them start small and not go and watch Terrifier 3.
Yeah.
This is a genuinely eerie.
Oh, this is terrifying 3.
300. There's 300 things that terrify me in this thing. But it's so good.
It starts with the eerie. There's no earthly way of knowing. And I love that it cuts to Veruca's dad and he's like, he's nodding along. Like, if I sing, it'll be less scary for us all.
Maybe he won't kill me if I agree with him. He's just brilliant. The visuals are so psychedelic that's going
it's
around.
Kind of like a kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
You got Grandpa Joe. Like, I'm with him. He's quite excited about it.
Yeah,
I'd go on this ride.
It's scary, but it's fun.
Yeah. Up until the cockroaches and the chicken's head's getting cut off.
And then Slugworth and pops up and he's like, it can't be. And this is another one of them where they just didn't know what Gene Wilder was going to do. And the kids are genuinely freaked out and so are the adults.
Yeah, because he just gets bigger and bigger. He goes, yes, the danger must be growing, for the rowers keep on rowing, and they're certainly not showing any signs that they are slowing.
And then the wide shot of him just rocking back and forth and seeing him scream. I'm like, cinema. Absolute cinema.
It's awesome. And they're all pleading with him, screaming.
Just stop the boat.
Quite right, sir.
We're here. Yeah, it's just great. We talk about how good Gene Wilder is for the role. No one else can do that.
Nope. Ain't nobody wilder.
No, and Genie.
So we get to the inventing room.
The inventing room.
I love that even the lock to the inventing room looks like an invention. It's like a double-keyed gear. It's very, very cool. It's just fun. All the inventions in here look like something a mad scientist has put together in their garage.
Yep.
He's throwing in clocks for time, soccer cleats for a little more kick.
Yep.
When it's too cold, he puts a jumper in it. It's just fun.
Candy is dandy, but liquor is quicker, which is good fun. Sam Beauregard sort of peeks on it. I was like, nope, you cannot look at that machine. Mm-hmm. This is basically the pride and joy, the everlasting gobstopper.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you what, bloody Willy Wonka, if he ever needed an alternate career, it could be a DJ because this machine makes the best beats.
I love it. Yeah. Maybe that'll be the tune to our new jingle. Oh, and I love his face. Obviously, there's a famous meme of it now. It's like, would you like to see? And he's just leaning on the machine.
Yep.
Awesome.
Because then the kids are like, this is what...
They're inquiring, yeah. How do you make them? I'm a trifle deaf in this ear. Next time, speak a little louder.
There's one thing this film does not need is Mike TV with a louder voice. Everyone gets one, and they're sort of fighting over it. And it's really interesting because, like, obviously all the other kids get them, and then Charlie gets one last.
Yep.
It's keen to see all the kids' reaction and stuff. They're pocketing it and everything like that.
Yep.
Basically a candy that's going to last forever. Save people, obviously, who don't have a lot of money, which is, perfect for Charlie and his family.
Absolutely. Partly why I'm sure Charlie can appreciate the secret.
100%. One of my other favourite inventions, turning a 3-course meal into a solitary piece of chewing gum.
This machine looks like the old Pizza Hut buffet tables.
That's such a good reference. With like the circular sort of...
Yeah. It's really good.
There's the jelly in the white corner, and there's the pasta and the pizza. Oh, good reference, Mr. Brown.
Pizza
Oh,
Hut.
they were...
They were good.
Oh, the kids got no idea what we're talking about, but goddamn,
it was
you haven't
sweet.
lived.
It was pretty sweet. And again, she thinks she knows better.
Chewing gum expert.
Violet Poltergeist's like, I'm jumping in here, and we get another stop.
Don't.
Why doesn't she listen to Mr. Wonka? Because she's a nitwit.
Oh!
Got him, Grandpa Joe! Grandpa, ho!
Oh, yes.
And what happens to her?
You're turning violet.
So many violets. Violet.
But yeah, blows up to the size of a blueberry. While turning violet.
Happens every time. They always become blueberries.
Get stuck with the desserts.
It looks so good, though.
I know.
It's a really good effect. So it's probably, and I'm just speculating, but it would be face paint, but I also think they put a blue light on her because her hair has a blue tinge to it. And then they've got like the kind of the fat suit thing. And especially when they're rolling her around.
Looks great.
It's so good. She has to be taken with Mr. Beauregard to be juiced. Juiced, otherwise she'll explode.
She will. And we're down to 3 kids.
2 nasty little children gone. 3 good, sweet little children left.
They sort of go through, they've got the lickable wallpaper, which I think is really cool.
Snozberries? Who's ever heard of a snozberry? We are the music makers. We are the dreamer of dreams.
And Fruka's like, huh?
What the hell are you talking about?
You're nuts.
You're nuts. You're more nuts than the factory that I own.
Sort of. Probably.
She probably owns it.
She probably does. Then they go through another really cool invention. It's fizzy lifting drinks, but it's the first time we really see that, like, Charlie and Grandpa Joe getting off the beaten path and not listening to the instructions.
I don't really like that Charlie drinks it.
Because this isn't in the original.
Yeah, well, I think it's only covered by the fact that Grandpa Joe kind of goats him into it.
Bastard.
Yeah, I know. They've taken some of my blood. Bastards.
You've taken some of my fizzy lifting drinks.
Bastards.
Said bastards a few too many times.
Nah, it's all good.
Do one more. Good. One more.
It's only for tests. Of course it is. Anyway, Johnny English reference there for those who know. Oh, we got to bring that back this year.
Oh, we'll be watching that this year.
But yeah, so this is as bad as anything else that the other kids do. Like in terms of not listening to the rules. He said no and they did it anyway. They could have ended up dying if they didn't burp. Could have been Emilio Estevez into the fan at the top of the ceiling.
Like Syndrome.
Not capes.
Not fizzy drinks.
But I will say I like the effect. So it's just cool. Wires. Like most of the time you can't see the wires. Sometimes you can see them a little. The only time it looks a little janky is the composited shot, the extreme wide one where you can just like see right through them. They're at like half opacity.
Yeah, that one I'm like, not quite.
I'll tell you what's a funny shot though. When Charlie first burps and he's like trying to swim down, he looks ridiculous.
He really does. I'm glad I wasn't the only one who grabbed that. And they burp to get themselves down after having a good time, and then they're like, all right, cool, let's catch up with the other people. And it's just like, oh yeah, cool. Not where have you been?
Nah.
They haven't been up there for
too busy
seconds.
Talking about the
squirrels that were changed to geese.
Geese laying golden chocolate eggs.
Yeah. So obviously in the book it is squirrels, and that's what they do with 2005, but they changed it to geese.
We may bring up 2005 later on. I don't know if you've got anything to say about it. I don't mind that as a remake because I like the world building of the factory and how they have some story beats that are a little bit closer to the book. The one thing I just don't like about it compared to this one is, of course, the portrayal of Willy Wonka.
I hate it. I hate it so much.
You're weird.
Yeah, so are you, Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Not a fan, because I love my Tim Burton stuff.
You do?
But the portrayal of Wonka by Johnny Depp is awful. Give it Wilder all day.
Some decent compositing here. Like, obviously you can tell what they've done. It's a pretty simple effect, but it looks good making the geese look so large.
Yep, it'll work.
Pretty good.
It works.
Pretty good.
One of my least favourite songs of the whole...
I disagree wholeheartedly. Okay. Certainly not my favourite, but I love this song.
It's just all over the place, though.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. Like, it keeps changing how it's going, and, like, I think it's performed really well.
I would agree with that. That, like, in terms of, I think, probably the most memorable of the child actors, Veruca's the best.
Yeah, and just, like, the part where she's
the worst.
She's singing so sweetly, and then it's like, I'm going to scream. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, I think she does a good job working with what she's got.
Yeah.
And elevating it. But don't care how, I want it now.
She was a bad egg.
She absolutely was. And so is Dad, who basically goes in there and...
Ooh, there's going to be a lot of garbage today. The furnace is only lit every other day, so they have a good sporting chance, don't they? But we move on. No time to mess around. We got to go to the Wonkamobile.
2 kids left.
Yeah, and do you want to know what's interesting? There is only enough seats on the Wonkamobile for the amount of people left.
How convenient.
Yeah, well, it's like he knew that they were going to get picked off. I think it might be the same case, I'm not 100% sure, with the boat as well. There wasn't enough room for Augustus and his mum on the boat earlier.
Yeah, we'll have to check.
So if he hadn't fallen in the river, the Oompa Loompas would have just come out and taken him out.
The whole plan would have been ruined. But I love the Wonkamobile, and it's like, all right, let's go. And it's not going very fast. It's fun, but then like all the foam starts coming out, and his singing is so funny.
It looks like a lot of fun, but you can see like Mike TV's not loving it, and then it cuts to Charlie, and he's just like, woo!
If the good Lord had intended us to walk, he wouldn't have invented roller skates.
Very good.
So stupid.
Very good. I also quite like the effect when they go through like the wash.
Yep.
The Wonka wash. And instead of just mirroring the shot so that they could do a nice easy transition, they decide to squash the car down and then have it come back out again.
I think it's cool.
It looks good. It looks really, really good. It kind of reminds me of like a Cat in the Hat type scenario.
Yep.
Then we move on to Wonka Vision. You should open your mouth a little wider when you speak.
Sick burn, Willy. Sick burn.
Got him.
But obviously this has got direct ties to old Mike TV.
Yeah, all the kids feel pretty targeted in these.
He was ready.
Golden eggs, gums, chocolate rivers.
He was ready. He was ready. But they work out a way to basically send a big chocolate bar through the TV so people can access it. And Mike's obviously like, well, what about people?
Yes, I suppose you could.
And then Mike does it, and obviously Wonka tries really hard.
Don't come back.
And yeah, Mike gets shrunk, and
we get teeny tiny Mikey TV.
Teeny tiny Mikey TV.
It's a fun effect. So there's a bit of rear projection in the shot of his mum's face. Like you could tell because it's quite like pixelated, but also when she picks him up and it's clearly just a mini model of a person, that's good fun. Good fun. So has to get taken to the old taffy pulling machine. Stretch him out. And I love that he's just like, oh, young boys are like limber. Yeah, he'll be fine.
He'll be right. Definitely not going to die. It's like a torture rack, basically.
I'll tell you, this Oompa Loompa song made me feel very targeted, though. About not watching TV and going out and reading a book or doing something else. I was like, uh-oh.
I better go delete my letterbox.
I was like, I'm watching movies right now.
This is so meta. Damn it, Oompa Loompas. You got me again.
You got me.
But 4 down and there's only 1 left.
And Charlie's really worried about the others here. Again, showing, even though they've been horrible kids, shows how much he like cares for people.
He's an empathetic character.
And we do hear that Willy Wonka says they'll be fine, restored to their former terrible selves.
Yep. But yeah, Wonka bids them farewell in a very sort of casual and standoffish.
Yeah,
and
catch ya, end of the tour.
I'm going off in my office. And then they're like, well, wasn't there a prize? And then we get in there and we're talking about, first-hand reactions to stuff. Oh my goodness. We go into Wonka's weird office where he's got like half mannequins and stuff.
I really like it because it's a like perfect metaphor about how his life isn't complete. He needs something to go and to fill the void. It looks awesome too. And it's just like the sound of the ticking clock, like building to the moment where he just like breaks.
Erupts.
He's pissed because Charlie also broke the rules. And as we say, fair enough. And I just adore a good Gene Wilder rant. We get the, "You get nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!" Yeah, it's incredible.
And Charlie's like quite broken about this. Obviously, probably compared to any other of these kids, having a lifetime supply of chocolate would mean a great deal for his family and more food and stuff in the house and everything like that.
Absolutely. And Joe's like, "Oh, well, screw him. Let's give Slugworth the recipe to the everlasting gobstopper."
And Charlie decides not to, and he says, "Hey, Mr. Wonka," and just places the gobstopper on there. And Gene Wilder's smile on his face is just like, "You won."
Yeah.
He gives him the big hug and everything.
Apologizes for putting him through it all, but he had to test his loyalties.
And then
Awesome.
Slugworth comes in, who's actually Mr. Wilkinson.
Mr. Wilkinson. It was all a test and a ruse. His flip of excitement is really, really awesome because you can tell he's genuinely pretty pissed off. And the fact that
Because he wanted Charlie to be that person.
For sure. They go to the Wonkavator. I pressed all of these buttons except one. I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. And you see he's really excited by it.
Yeah. And they leave the factory, go out through the ceiling.
Up and out.
And speaking of leaving the factory, but he leaves the factory to Charlie.
Charlie's face as they're going up should have won an Academy Award for that performance. But again, we get those beautiful shots of Munich to kind of wrap the film. It's very uplifting. He wants the family to come and live in the factory. So
That's
all their troubles are over.
And so's the movie.
Yeah. And we don't have to go through all those additional scenes where we get Wonka's backstory. That audible groan.
And I love Christopher Lee, but goddamn, bugger that film.
Jeez.
But
Tell us what you really think.
But I love this film.
This film is incredible. And I say we don't get any more scenes, but if we could get some more scenes with Gene Wilder, I'd be all about it.
This is also one of the rare times. This is the first time I've actually watched it since I was a kid. Like, I don't think I've watched this film in over 20 years.
Yeah, right.
And I can't tell you how much joy it brought me to enjoy different aspects of this film as an adult, with all that sharp sort of Gene Wilder dialogue.
Yep.
The build-up. I remember like being really bored by the hunt for the tickets prior. And I just wanted them to get to the factory.
That hunt is great.
But I enjoyed it a lot more this time. And it's just terrific. I like being able to watch films that the kids have got us onto. That's always a good thing. But I think it's a really good thing that we get to share some films that are important to us. Really glad that as well, like the positive reaction that we got in Film Club when we did watch this film. There's that stigma sometimes from younger students that old movie means bad movie. But this is a classic that still very much holds up. And I've been really glad to talk about the film.
Yeah, I would have said that between this and The Wizard of Oz, like those are two absolute classics in terms of their early time period, but also just the mark that they made on cinema. Great suggestion, Ignatius.
Thanks, Ignatius.
Alrighty, let's do some weekly watches.
Let's do it.
Weekly watches. Weekly watches. I love you.
Bit of a big week for me because I wanted to catch up on my 2025 films.
Oh my goodness.
I've got 4 films all released this year. So
Kick us off, Mr. Brown.
I'm going to kick things off with Nosferatu, which actually is listed as a 2024 release, but for us Australians, it came out on January 1st.
It did. Bloody Nosferatu. Bloody Count Orlok.
Hooroo, they say. To
Hooroo, Robert Eggers. Bobby Eggers.
Bobby Eggers. Now, I feel my opinion on this film is going to be a little controversial. I just want to say, I want to say up front, I liked it, but everybody seems to love it, and I'm not sure I could quite get to love. I didn't give it the old heart on Letterboxd. The reason that I wasn't quite as engrossed as I thought I would be, obviously I really enjoy the Nosferatu character. I love the original Nosferatu. I studied it at university. I love the imagery from it. It's a very familiar story, very similar to most adaptations of Dracula as well.
Yes.
You got the Thomas character, which is your Jonathan Harker character, which we're pretty familiar with from our mashups.
Bram Stoker's Dracula. Bram Oder's Dracula.
Bram Stoker's Dracula. A bit of Bram for us, but I just thought, despite the fact that the visuals were spectacular, and they definitely were, like, especially the model work with the shadows and things like that, I thought the performances were incredible. The big issue I had with it was pacing. And The main reason I did have that issue was because it is a familiar storyline. We know where it's going.
You want to get there a bit quicker.
Well, you do, because the tension for me didn't quite feel as tense because I knew where it was going, and the sequences aren't necessarily action-driven. They are quite slow builds. And so there are definitely some spectacular moments in it. I love some of the transitions in the film. When he comes from the carriage to standing, that's a practical effect and it looks incredible. But I just felt there were times where I was like, nah, this could be moving a little bit quicker. So because of that, I would say I probably didn't have as much appreciation for it as people had built up in my head that I would, but still a good watch. So that's my first.
And I think that's also probably an indication of how good Robert Eggers is as a filmmaker. Have some sort of similar ideas to you. I didn't mind the fact that we took a bit of time to get there, and I agree that like visually it was one of the genuinely I think one of the better movies I've seen in a while. So I really love Eggers behind a camera. I think he's brilliant, but I can understand what you're talking about. That's totally fair. And he's probably not my favorite Eggers film. Just didn't quite have a few things that I probably liked about some of his other works.
Nice.
That's fair. I'm going to do something crazy and talk about a TV show. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
If you're new to the podcast, I don't really watch a lot of TV. I watch movies. I watched this TV show, and I'm still watching it now that I've found out. I've still got a couple of episodes to go, but I've really enjoyed watching the 2023 Goosebumps.
It's really good.
And we talk about some of foundational aspects of what you're into as an adult. Goosebumps was 100% like one of the books series that I read the most as a kid. I read them cover to cover. I remember trading some of them for other Goosebumps books that my friends had at primary school. I loved them, and I loved the TV shows and like the little sort of TV movies and everything like that. They were great. I'd known that there was another Goosebumps iteration that come out, but I think particularly after sort of the two movies that Nickelodeon did with Jack Black, I was a bit hesitant about I don't want to go back into Goosebumps if they're not going to do it properly. And I'm really glad that they are doing this properly with a really new take. It's some really modern adaptations of some stories that are now over 35 years old. Mm-hmm. And I really like some of the takes on the different stories they've done, focusing on individual stories like The Cuckoo Clock of Doom, Haunted Mask, Night of the Living Dummy, Say Cheese and Die, but with like a modern, fresh approach, and also with an ongoing story arc across the series.
An overarching narrative that links them. It's pretty clever.
And we like Justin Long, particularly in horror. I think he's really
Absolutely,
good.
we do.
And yeah, I've just really enjoyed this. I've still got a couple of eps to go, but it takes a lot for me to talk about a TV show on the pod, so I thought it'd be worth talking about this one. Interested to watch the next iteration or series with David Schwimmer. I know we've talked about off camera that not as
2 or
good.
3 eps, and then now I'm locked out of my Disney account, but I'm not too phased that I didn't get to finish the second
Fair
season.
enough. I'll finish it off and I'll report back.
Please do. Next for me, Companion.
So you watched it.
Look, I will try to avoid
Please.
talking too much about it. I really enjoyed it. I do think it has some pretty major flaws, but it's in the storytelling and it's in what some of the characters do. But I also think that it highlights that the characters aren't very smart at times. So I think a lot of it can be forgiven. It certainly wasn't a perfect film. I would just label it as a bit of fun. We've talked about this already. There is a lot of information that is being revealed in trailers and posters and things like that.
Too much.
If I didn't know those, I would have appreciated it a bit more, I think, because they do a clever nods to what's going to happen. If you know, you know, but if you don't, it's quite a cool reveal.
I was going to say, is this like the third act reveal sort of vibe?
No. It's definitely earlier. It's not an Abigail situation, but I do think that there is a bit of a build to it. So anyway, I thought it was fun. I thought that the performances were really good in it. There were definitely some laughs along the way. The horror's not too overt. It's like low-key horror, but there's also some nods to some other kind of franchises as well, which I look forward to talking to you about in a little bit more detail.
Okay, I've got to get on and watch it and have those discussions. Speaking of spooky films, I did watch another one, The House of the Devil, which is one of Ty West's original sort of films. Came out in 2009, so a fair way removed from X, Pearl, and Maxine. Mm-hmm. And I'd heard good things about this film. Oh, this is a bit of me, this film. This is a bit of me. Really, really good sort of 80s set slasher. A lot of that sort of satanic panic elements about it.
Yep.
Haunted house, very like classic 80s horror elements. And it's just done really well. It's shot to look like that as well. I think that some of the editing decisions and clearly what they did with filming, I think is really, really awesome. You get like the text at the start of the movie, very much like Texas Chainsaw, saying like a it's based on true events and all those sort of things. The character Sam does she's a college student who's struggling for money and gets basically a babysitting job, and then it kind of turns out that the babysitting job's a little bit different than what was originally advertised. Jocelyn Donahue plays the lead character. I think she's terrific. Greta Gerwig's in it as an actress. That's how it's a bit of an older film. Gets a lot of what I really like about horror really great. Very atmospheric. It just looks great and feels great as a nice, tight little slasher film. And you can see a lot of DNA for what Ty West was going to do later after this film. So I highly recommend checking it out.
Yeah, nice. Next on my list is Flight Risk. So this is, again, 2025. Michelle Dockery, Mark Wahlberg, Topher Grace. Basically, Topher Grace is being transported in the small plane, and Mark Wahlberg is
bald.
Well, he is for seemingly no reason. We speculated that it wouldn't play into the story, and it doesn't.
It was just that was my most memorable part of the trailer. It's turned into the guy from SpongeBob. Bald, bald.
It's odd. Nice. You can see the seam of the bald cap a lot of times in the film as well. God. And the only reason that I could think to make him bald is that it would be part of the reveal, but it's kind of like he's already revealed and then the cap comes off in the scuffle. So what's the point? But anyway, Mark Wahlberg is basically flying this plane, and it's just supposed to be someone that was chartered, but it turns out he is a hitman and he's trying to kill Topher Grace so he can't testify. And yeah, it's in terms of what do they call it? It's like a bottle episode, but it's a bottle film or a bottle movie.
In terms of isolated
location. It's a bit of fun. It works well. I was surprised at how much comedy was in it. There's some witty banter between those characters. Michelle Dockery's character is kind of also flirting with one of the people on the radio that's helping her to to control the plane. And so, yeah, it was lighter than I thought it would be. Okay. And yeah, again, a bit of fun. So none of these films that I'm saying, these are pretty much all the films that I've watched for 2025, maybe with the exception of one or two, but none of them have dazzled me. I haven't found a 2025 film where I was like, yes, now we're cooking.
We're still early year. We know studios like to dump a few things around this time of year, so.
Absolutely. So, yeah, bit of fun, Flight Risk.
Last one for me, David Lynch's Lost Highway. I went to the Astor yesterday. Obviously, David Lynch passed away last month. Mm-hmm. Comfortably one of the hardest sort of celebrity sort of film-related deaths I've seen in a while. Just a brilliant filmmaker. I think one of the most enigmatic. Tony Todd. Outside of Tony Todd, definitely that was one that hit pretty hard too. David Lynch is just a truly brilliant filmmaker, a very unique sort of character. I love how much he loves film as well. They played some interviews with him about talking about watching a movie on a phone and stuff like that. It was just great how he talked about how that's just such a poor experience to be watching movies and stuff like that. I really enjoy that. The cinema was applauding watching this and stuff. And Lost Highway is a really great film. I remember watching it as an undergrad student doing film studies, and my lecturer sort of played it out of context. I can't even remember what the context was, but we weren't studying the film or anything like that.
Right.
And it was one of the most terrifying scenes that I'd ever seen, but it was entrancing. It was really magnetic, sort of how the scene was constructed. And I was like, what's happened? I want to know more. And that's, I think, a really good sort of, summation of watching a David Lynch film, that you're sometimes not sure what you're watching. Mm-hmm. It's a bit weird. It can be a bit creepy sometimes, and you don't know what's going on, but you want to know and you want to learn. And I think that characteristic of him as a filmmaker is borderline unmatched across his catalogue. I haven't watched everything that he's done, and I look forward to, ticking off Twin Peaks, which I know is a bit blasphemous as a David Lynch fan that I haven't watched it, but hey, it's a big TV show and I need time.
Oh, look, that's one of the few that I have. So I've watched all of Twin Peaks and really like it. But I'm hit and miss with David Lynch. Eraserhead was one of the hardest watches I've done. Okay. I crawled to the end of it. But yeah, he has varying degrees of experimental in what he does.
Yeah, I think you can have, and it's very dependent on you need to watch his stuff on a good day. I'm not rocking into watching a David Lynch film tired, and if I want to watch something a bit disposable, I'm not watching one of his films. I need to be in it. But basically the films You've got like Bill Pullman plays like a saxophonist. Him and his wife are being almost stalked by someone. It's a funnier film than I remember sort of giving it credit for when I watched it. There's really good character actors in this. Some of the background performances are terrific. Really entrancing piece of cinema. Not only just the film, but I think the experience watching at the Astor really did feel like a really good celebration and a toast to someone who we're going to miss in the film industry. So
nice.
Lost Highway was a good time, and rest in power, David Lynch.
Awesome. I will finish with The Gorge, which I watched last night.
How was it?
I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
So even though I said like this hasn't been a particularly strong year, this might be one of my favorites of the year.
Okay.
So partly too because I was surprised at how much I enjoyed it. I thought it would just be a bit meh, and I quite liked it. So it's Miles Teller, Anya Taylor-Joy. They're sort of ex-military guns for hire, one for Russia, one for America, and they get hired to monitor this gorge. And they're basically on these monitor towers on both sides of the gorge. They're not supposed to have any contact with each other, but because they're stationed there for a year, inevitably they do make contact. And the thing that I really enjoyed about it was how good their performances were in really selling the tension between them, the likability of each of the characters without using much dialogue. Obviously, they can't talk to each other, so they hold up a lot of like signs. They'll like play chess across from each other, dance to music with each other. It was a really, really cool idea. Inevitably, they do go into the gorge, and I actually think that's probably one of the weakest parts of the film. But anything that happens outside the gorge, I really, really enjoyed. And I do think that in the gorge isn't so bad, but there's sort of a creature element to this film, and I wasn't a huge fan of some of the designs. They all looked a bit cheesy. It's a bit Pirates of the Caribbean-esque. Right, okay. And to me, that kind of took me out of it a little bit. I would have preferred a more haunting, kind of gory look to it. But still, I had a good time with it. And as I say, like the performances are really good. I really appreciate when a performer can do a lot. This is a little contradictory because I often say that I love dialogue and I love witty dialogue, but I am also a big fan of showing a performance with very little dialogue and really selling it based on facial expressions and movements. And it's weird how much chemistry the two of these had before they had said a line to each other.
Nice.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Can you check it out?
Yeah, bit of fun. Cool. Alrighty, shall we move on to our new segment, Best and Blurst?
Let's do it.
Best and Blurst of mine. Some of them suck, but some are fine. Can't all be winners all the time. We'll see which fall on each side of the line.
So for this segment, we are going to rattle off a selection of Best and Blurst for a particular category. This week, since Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory did have the Tim Burton remake, as we mentioned, we thought we would list some other remakes and see if they were worth making, best, or a bit of a waste of time, Blurst. I actually found this a really interesting category because when I started researching, I found some of my favorite films. Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which I've talked to you about before, is actually based on a 60s film called Bedtime Stories. And I vaguely knew that, but the reason I was looking at it was because I knew they'd done the Rebel Wilson and Hathaway film, The Hustle, which was another remake of it. So I found so many examples of films that had not only been remade, but had been remade time and time again as well, which is really, really interesting. So I mean, you and I both said this is a category we could go on for days talking about.
Truly.
So many examples. I've got a few. I don't know if I'll talk through all of them, but obviously the lists that we are drawing from are films where we've seen both versions of the film so that we can actually validate whether we think it's either better or at least worth making. So I'm going to lump two together and say this is part of my best side. The Italian Job and Ocean's 11. So looking at the 2001 and 2003 versions of those compared to their 60s counterparts and saying, I actually think they're better than the originals. And part of that is the genre. We're looking at heist films, and I'm not saying they need any incredible special effects, but these are films that need to be punchy and exciting and build that tension, and I just don't think the 60s versions do as good a job. Even though both films have incredible casts in the 60s one. Obviously, you got Michael Caine. Benny Hill actually makes an appearance in the original Italian Job. Ocean's 11, you're looking at the whole Rat Pack there as well. So obviously big names, but I just think the new casts are fun. Mark Wahlberg, Charlize Theron, and then in Ocean's 11, you got Brad Pitt, Don Cheadle, George Clooney. So I think both are good films, but I actually think the remakes are the superior ones in this case.
There you go. Kick things off with one of my best, and that's Scarface. Comparing sort of the De Palma 80s pure cocaine hit of maximalism versus like the classic sort of Howard Hawks 1932 like Chicago mobster film. Both great films. I've spoken on the podcast before how much I love Brian De Palma as a director, and this is like, it's just such a good film. It's probably one of the films I go back to that, like, if I kind of want to watch something on in the background, I'm pretty happy sort of watching this and just chucking it on, because I really adore this film. Al Pacino is probably one of his most iconic roles. 80s Miami, the score, the look of everything, the suits, the costuming, just everything about this film. I really like how much it takes the ideas of that original film and puts it in a 80s setting, and what sort of crime looks like differently in that time. It's just such a watchable film.
Nice. My first Blurst is another teamer. I'm talking Hitchcock. So Psycho had the 1960s version, which is incredible. A Perfect Murder, which was Dial M for Murder, from 1954. So I love the originals of these. I think they are maybe two of my favorite Hitchcocks ever.
Yep.
Right up there with Vertigo for me, but the remakes are just pointless.
The derivative.
So the one for Psycho is literally shot for shot.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, a lot of the stuff that it's doing, because it's just trying to replicate it, whereas stylistically, when they did it in the original 60s, it was going for something that could be done at the time. And often when you remake things, you're trying to add a modern interpretation to it. So why you would do it shot for shot, as someone who's made quite a lot of shot for shots myself, they're not adding anything to it. And Vince Vaughn's performance is just awful.
Yeah, and I love Vince Vaughn, but
not in this.
Norman Bates, he is not.
And with A Perfect Murder, I will say that Michael Douglas's performance is fine, and at least they do change the ending of the film, but it can't compare. Dial M for Murder is awesome. It's a really, really great film, and A Perfect Murder just feels lackluster comparatively.
Fair. My Blurst first one, I don't even know if you even classify this as a remake, but or a modern interpretation. But I'm talking about our two different versions of Jumanji that we've got. The OG versus Welcome to the Jungle, which certainly does feel like a bit of a remake and a reimagining of that original story, considering there's not really any references to Alan Parrish at all in the OG story. I'm counting this on my list because
I think there is a reference to Alan Parrish. I'm pretty sure when they're in the jungle, they find like the hut that he was living in when he was in the jungle.
Well, that indicates how forgettable this film was, because I think
I'll let it slide.
I think it sucks. And why I bring this up is because a lot of the time when I've talked about Jumanji sometimes in the class, and a lot of them bring up the fact it's like, oh, so why can't we do the new one? I'm like, because it sucks. Because it sucks.
Savage Mr. Boylan, that's what they say.
I'm very much had my fill of Dwayne Johnson over the time. As much as there are some fun elements in this, I love Jack Black. Just frustrating. I just don't like it. I really don't like it.
You're self-destructing here, guys.
I'm imploding. The stakes don't feel real, but the first one does. And that's a really big thing for me that, again, put a bit of fear back in the kids, okay? They need to feel it. And they don't. There's nothing scary about this first film. So that's a Blurst for me, Mr. Brown. Let's move on. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
My next best, I'm going with The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. So this has a 1947 version and a 2013
Did not know that was a thing. There you go.
So the 1947 version starred Danny Kaye, one of my absolute faves from the classic era. And the 2013 version had Ben Stiller in it. And the reason I love both of these versions is they're different enough. So the similarities between them, they're both about like a daydreamer, and then that daydreamer gets roped into a realistic scenario of some of the stuff that he has previously daydreamed about. But they take a very different tone. So there's comedy elements in both of them, but Ben Stiller's one is quite inspirational. He works for like Time Magazine and daydreams about the exciting things that are in Time Magazine or on the cover of Time Magazine, and then decides he actually wants to pursue that. And so it's a real adventure film of him. Like, it's quite inspirational when you watch it. But the Danny Kaye one is just a ridiculous kind of action thriller. So he pictures himself as like a hero all the time, and then he accidentally gets roped into like this conspiracy with murder and stuff like that. Very different paths, but the same general idea. And they're both so good in their own way. Really, really fun. The reason it works is because they're different.
There you go. Next one for me in terms of the best category is The Fly.
Good shout.
So the 58 one is like a pretty like okay like old school monster movie. Mm-hmm. But the 86 Cronenberg film was one of my favorite films of all time. It's peak David Cronenberg, mid-80s horror. It's just good stuff. And we know what Mr. Boyle likes in a horror movie more than anything else.
Practical effects.
And they're pretty incredible here.
And Jeff Goldblum.
And I do love Jeff Goldblum. Yeah. He's just fantastic in this film. I love him and Gina Davis. Figurative like decomposition of his humanity is incredible. And I just think it's a terrific horror film. So I was sort of tossing up between this and The Thing, but I've talked about The Thing a fair bit on the podcast before. I'd like to talk about this film a bit more. So yeah,
fair enough. I figured The Thing was going to make your list anyway.
No, it didn't.
There you go. I left it off too because I assumed you were going to do it.
But it probably. I mean, I think it's a non-negotiable. But,
that's true. That's true.
But yeah, that's Cronenberg at his best here with this him and Goldblum working together. It's great.
Nice. My next Blurst is Death on the Nile. So
he talked about
the
this.
1978 one with Peter Ustinov, I adore. It's probably my second favorite Agatha Christie put to screen.
What's your favorite?
Evil Under the Sun. Also Peter Ustinov. But the Kenneth Branagh ones have never really landed for me. I was surprised to learn that the Kenneth Branagh one is 13 minutes shorter because it feels so much longer.
And enough champagne to fill the Nile.
Champagne!
It's just the characters aren't very likable. Doesn't have any of the wit. Like Maggie Smith's in the original, and she's delivering fast-paced dialogue.
Zippers and zingers.
Zippers and zingers. But it's also the mystery feels more compelling in all the original ones as well. They just don't quite capture the tone, which is a real shame because obviously Kenneth Branagh loves Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
That's why he's trying to do this. But it's never really landed for me, and I don't really like his portrayal of Poirot either. So, yeah.
Fair enough. My next Blurst, I'm going to talk about one film, but I could categorize a lot of films here. I'm going to be talking about the newest iteration of Disney's Pinocchio, and mainly just all live-action Disney movies that don't need to exist at all. The House of Mouse has run out of ideas, and these films frustrate me because some of them are okay. Specifically The Jungle Book, pretty good. The rest of them are not good. And Pinocchio is the worst of them. I find especially egregious.
Oh my goodness, who knew you were going to get so fired up for this?
Pinocchio. I really love Pinocchio like the original. It's one of my favorite Disney movies of all time.
Darkness in it as well.
100%. And it's got soul. It's got personality. I love the characters. It's like stripped away. It's just completely stripped away from this film. It feels soulless. It feels like I'm on like a really terrible Disney ride that they've half-assed. I remember getting to the end of it and I was like, when's this over? It sucks because Tom Hanks is in it. And I like Tom Hanks. I really now want to go watch the Guillermo del Toro one that came out, I think, either a year later or in the same year.
I heard that also wasn't great.
Oh, it might be better than this. Not a lot.
It sounds like it couldn't be worse.
True. There is still some good stuff coming out of Disney at the moment, but people getting excited by remakes. The fact that we're getting a live-action remake of Moana, like barely, not even 5 years after the animated one came out. The height of laziness. The height of apathy. And I'm over it. And I need to stop talking about Dwayne Johnson movies. I'm getting angry. And just get some cool ideas happening. You can do it, Disney. You can do it.
Do it. We believe in them. Next up for best for me, I'm going to talk Poseidon. So
nice.
The Poseidon Adventure, 1972. There was a Tally movie in 2005, which was also great. And then Poseidon 2006.
I love this film so much.
All three iterations are really, really good. They're different enough. So the Tally movie was great because it actually wasn't about just like hitting something and then something going wrong. There are terrorists on the boat in that one, so it's quite a different kind of approach to it. But also the reason that the 2006 one is so good and different enough from the 1972 one is it's a disaster movie. So if you're talking disaster movies and you have the ability to do these great effects, it really, really helps make them spectacular. Plus, I love the cast in all of them.
Yep.
Weirdly, the only one that I can rattle off from the 2005 one is Steve Guttenberg from the Police Academy films.
He's the only one you remember?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because it was still fun. It was good.
The 2005 one.
Yeah, not the 2006 one.
Oh, okay, I was going to say... Like,
he's not in that. 2006 got
cast
Kurt
is
Russell.
stacked.
It's got Josh... What's his face?
Josh Lucas.
Emmy
Rossum.
Richard Dreyfuss.
Kevin Dillon.
Very, very good.
Talk about films that I love just to just chuck on and not think about. Poseidon 2006 is just one of the best.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And of course, the Gene Hackman original is great too. But this is one where, like, the storyline is not that different. They're all disaster movies, but they have different elements to each of them. And freshening up the effects for disaster movies in particular, I see the validity in that. So, yeah, this is definitely on my best list.
Nice. One that might be a bit controversial to sort of, like, be on the best list because... I think the 2009 film, I guess, is a bit underrated, and that's The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I haven't seen both versions.
So the original's good. Came out in 74. That's like a bit of more of a like low-key, more psychological film. But the Tony Scott film, because, well, it's Tony Scott who's done, like, you know, Days of Thunder and Top Gun and everything like that. Mm-hmm. It's a bit more sort of like high-octane action film, but I love this film, and a lot of it's just carried by the fact that Denzel Washington and John Travolta are giving two of their best performances in their career, I think. There's a big thing to say about Denzel, and I know this is a bit more of like a mainstream film, but I just think it's really good. I have a really good time watching this as a thriller, and I like both films for doing something a little bit differently. Me think things.
We were.
But yeah, if you guys also as well, like, feel free to get at us in the comments if you do not agree with our best and blurst placings of these films.
Because I've got a couple more than you, I'm going to lump some together now and talk some blurst horrors. Ooh. So first on my list, Black Christmas. Adore the 1974 one. Hate the 2006 and 2019 one. So the 2006 one is just disgusting and really uncomfortable to watch.
Okay.
And the 2019 one is so overt with its social commentary that you can't take it seriously when you're watching it. It's almost like everyone's a caricature because they're really trying to hammer home the point that they're making. And so I found both, well, one a disgusting watch and one a really frustrating watch. Whereas the original,
it's great.
It's so good. The creepy voice on the phone. Margot Kidder's in it as well. It's just, can't remember the name of the main girl in it, but she's incredible as well. It's really, really good. It's got kind of like a When a Stranger Calls vibe to it. I just love it. I can't fault it as a film. So
the slasher genre doesn't exist without that film.
Absolutely it doesn't. It really left its mark. But the other ones that I want to mention, firstly, Carrie. So 1976 one. The 2013 one, look, it's fine, but it just brings nothing new to it, and the performances and sound design are not nearly as creepy as the original. Like that soundbite of, they're all gonna laugh at you from the first one. Awesome. And very, very quickly, Suspiria as well. One that you've seen both versions of?
I haven't seen the new one. But
okay.
Because interestingly, when I was looking at sort of like, what are some underrated film remakes? People talk about Suspiria as like the best one, but I've heard like similar reactions from you that say it's awful. And I really love the Dario Argento film. So I've been like almost nervous to go and look at this 2018 version.
Well, it just doesn't have any of like the visual spectacle of the original, like the color. It does have spectacle in other ways. They focus a lot on the dancing, but yeah, the ending is just a bit batshit crazy, and it's really distracting that they've got Tilda Swinton playing two roles in the film, but one of them is wearing prosthetics to be a male character. Whoa. And I think it is about the significance of the patriarchy versus the matriarchy in it. I think that's what it's going for, but they never actually have anything that references that specifically. And you're kind of not supposed to know that it is, but you do know that someone's wearing prosthetics. So you're like, oh, what's this about? Is it someone in disguise? No.
It's just a casting choice.
It's just weird and distracting. So yeah, I love the original, but the remake didn't do it for me.
Speaking about loving technically there's a lot of versions of this film. The Mummy.
The Mummy.
The Blue Mummy.
Very good.
Absolute classic monster film. Superb. 1999's The Mummy is one of my favourite films of all time. In fact, it recently got moved into my 4 favourites on Letterboxd.
Hey!
I adore how good this film is in terms of a blend of action, adventure, comedy, horror, a bit of romance. It's
They don't call him Brendan Fraser for nothing.
that's some of your best. That's good. That's good. I needed that little hit of serotonin before I talk about the next iteration of this film. 2017's The Mummy with Tom Cruise.
It's atrocious, isn't it?
It's a terrible film. And for what this film represents, because it's supposed to kick off the new dark universe from Universal when everyone was obsessed with building a universe and putting in Easter eggs, and they had Mr. Hyde play Mr. Hyde by bloody Russell Crowe. It's just really awful, like Cockney Mr. Hyde. Tom Cruise is trying his heart out. And one thing I will never fault Tom Cruise for is giving 100%. But like Jake Johnson's in it. I love Jake Johnson. Sophia Boutella has been able to build a career out of this film, so that's a positive thing because I think she's really great in this film and in other films. This film as a whole is just awful. It's so bad.
Who
so
knew this
bad.
would awaken such anger in you? This brand new segment.
This brand new segment. I cannot wait to demolish and disappear in the sands of time. Like, they put a lot around this film. There's the infamous, like, promo shots of all the other actors who are going to be in all the other films, like Javier Bardem, Johnny Depp, and Angelina Jolie, and this is going to be their big universe. And it just hasn't worked. And I really wanted this to work, and I really wanted, like, this new universe of, like, Universal horror monster films, because those films are classics. Like, I love what Van Helsing does for that. And even though Van Helsing is a bit of a guilty pleasure, I had a lot more fun with Van Helsing than I did with The Mummy.
Giant oversized hat.
And massive machine gun crossbow. It's a stupid film, but God, it's fun.
It is fun.
I'm glad that Universal are maybe going to try some different things with that. Obviously, with Wolfman, which you've seen, I haven't got around to it yet. Love The Invisible Man. That'd be in my best remakes if we're talking about Lee Whannell's take on that.
Yep.
And they're doing some cool, like a dark universe part at one of the new Universal Studios lands they're going to have some really cool Universal monster rides and stuff. Can't wait for that. But 2017's The Mummy. Get in the bin.
Nice. I've got a couple more, but I'll race through them. So first up, just want to quickly touch on Freaky Friday. It's very
Why is that
topical at the
timely and
moment
topical, Mr.
as our
Brown?
production for this year.
Yep.
But the 2003 version versus the 1976 version, I quite like the 1976 version, but I just think 2003 tops it. Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis.
Brilliant.
It's really, really good. So wanted to mention that's a best for me. A couple of blursts that I will throw out there. The Magnificent Seven. So this is interesting because in itself is a bit of a reimagining of the Seven Samurai, but I love the 1960 version of the Magnificent Seven. I was quite excited to see a remake of it in the 2017 version.
Stack cast.
Just awful. Awful. I really, really disliked this film. I watched it once and that was more than enough. If you haven't seen it, don't. Go to the 60s version. It's much, much better. The other one I want to mention for Blurst before I finish with some horror bests is Ghostbusters. So going from the 1984 one to the 2016 one. I'm not a huge fan of the new ones, but since they are technically part of the original canon, I had to touch on the 2016 one. It should have been better. The cast was good. I really like Paul Feig. I'm a big fan of Bridesmaids and that kind of formula of getting some SNL types together and letting them just riff off each other. And for a lot of it, the same SNL types. So it should have been better, but I think they do a little bit too much riffing and they lose their characters in that. One of the strengths of the 1984 version is the fact that they have very distinct character archetypes and they all kind of blend together in the remake because they're all the funny one because they're all riffing. So yeah, they lose that a little bit for me, and I don't find the ghosts as compelling. Just a big CGI swirl, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So
shout out to Chris Hemsworth though.
He's good in it. And as I say, I really like all the Ghostbusters in it. In other things, I just don't think they really land for me in this.
Doesn't quite come together.
All right, but because we both love our horror, let's finish with our best horror remakes. So you've seen House of Wax, the original, the 1953 one. Have you seen the 2005 one?
Sure have.
I really like it.
It's a bit of fun.
It's so fun. I mean, the original's a bit of fun too, but the remake is like peak 2000s.
Oh, yep.
You got Chad Michael Murray, Paris Hilton, Alicia Cuthbert, and Jared Padalecki too. I just think it's really, really fun. It's like classic teens getting picked off one by one. Remote location. The effects are gory and cool.
Genuinely one of the most goosebumps sort of inducing scenes I've ever seen is when, forget which character it is.
That's good for spoilers.
Yeah, gets their like Achilles sliced to the stairs, and I just like more than like getting your guts taken out or head chopped up, I felt it, and I was like, oh nah.
Yeah. Also just like the eyes moving behind the wax. Oh, creepy. On that trend, Dawn of the Dead. Really like the 1978 one, but I really like the 2004 one as well. I think it's a fresh kind of take. Well, it's not really a fresh take. They're still in the supermarket, but they're in the supermarket for longer than they are in the original. It's all about kind of the character dynamics between them. Bigger crew as well, so more people can get picked off. Just adds a bit more excitement with the chases and things like that. So that was really, really good. But I want to end on one that I think we both can agree on, Evil Dead. So the 1981 version, awesome, but we really like, so the original The Evil Dead and the remake Evil Dead from 2013.
Shout out to Fede Alvarez.
We've already spoken about it on the pod many a time, but we just think it is a really, really great remake. It's incredible performances. We kind of want it to not be a remake and for the two franchises to meet and have some sort of a crossover between them. That would be ideal for me. And
after
I think
Evil Dead Rises,
Yeah, I think that really speaks to how good it is that you want the franchises to come together.
Right now.
So yeah, that's Best and Blurst. You will have to let us know, guys, if you enjoyed this new segment. Most of our segments are slight variations on a similar theme, but this was something a bit different. We often talk about our favorite things, so it was kind of fun to chuck in some Blurst in the mix.
Particularly if it's going to get me raging like that.
That's it. I really enjoyed that. Fostering some anger out of you. But as always, guys, please do remember to like, subscribe, share it around. Make sure you are commenting with ideas for future segments or future categories you want to talk about for segments. I haven't really thought of an end little quote for this. Is there a Willy Wonka goodbye? I said good day, sir!
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Thanks, guys. Catch you at the next film club.